I still remember that morning with chilling clarity. It was the omen of my entire collapse. The date was New Year's Day, 2022. Outside my window, Columbus was still asleep, the sky a sickly grayish-white. My three best friends, Mark, David, and Ryan, and I had just finished an all-night Texas Hold'em game. The apartment was thick with smoke, the air a mixture of cheap beer, pizza, and desperation. Crumpled bills and chips were scattered across the table like the wreckage of a small battle. We started at 10 the night before, initially just a friendly holiday game between brothers. But as the alcohol and adrenaline kicked in, the stakes began to spiral out of control after midnight. I was losing, and I kept losing. I'd start with a good hand, only to be crushed by an opponent's river card. I'd make a bold bluff, only to be ruthlessly exposed by a calm call. Only one thought consumed me: the next hand. I'll win it back on the next hand. When the clock hit 8 a.m. and Ryan threw down his last card with a yawn, the game was over. I checked my pockets, then my wallet, and finally my mobile banking app. I had lost a total of $1,950. For an IT tech support professional, making just over $50,000 a year, this was nearly half a month's take-home pay. I stumbled into the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, hoping to wash away the night's exhaustion and frustration. When I looked up, I saw the man in the mirror. His eyes were bloodshot, a mix of anger, resentment, and a strange madness swirling within them. That wasn't me, or at least not the John the First knew. The one who was content with a simple life and had beautiful plans for the future with his girlfriend, Sarah. The man in the mirror was a devil, twisted by greed and failure. I made a silent vow to him: I will get that money back. I spent that day in bed, my body exhausted, but my brain running like an overclocked server. A loss between friends should have been something to laugh off, but the failure of that night was a thorn that had lodged deep in my pride. I opened my laptop and typed into Google, Advanced Texas Hold'em Strategies, How to Spot a Bluff. I was looking for some kind of secret, a weapon that would make me invincible at the next card table. As I was engrossed in a poker forum, an aggressive pop-up ad took over my screen. It was for a porn site, garishly designed. My first instinct was to click the little X, but in that split second, the ad's background content caught my eye. Behind the provocative images was a dense cluster of flashing, neon casino ads. Mount Olympus Casino, sign up and get a $500 bonus. Golden Dragon Palace, live dealers. Experience Vegas luxury. Instant withdrawals, your winnings in your account in 3 minutes. The words felt magical. I had seen them online before, but had never paid them any mind. But in that moment, a dangerous idea formed in my head. At a real table, my micro-expressions, my racing heart, they could all be read by my friends. But online, I was just an ID, an avatar. No one knew who I was, and no one could see my face. I could calmly calculate the odds and make decisions with composure. It was a perfect, pressure-free battlefield. The idea was so seductive that it made me temporarily forget the pain of losing. This is just a tool, I told myself, a tool to win back my $2,000. Once I make my money back, I'll stop immediately, uninstall everything, and go back to my normal life. With this self-deceiving plan, I finally fell into a deep sleep. I woke up at dusk to the city lights beginning to glow outside. Without a moment's hesitation, I clicked the link from the porn site. From the dizzying array of casino ads, I randomly chose one called Golden Dragon Palace. The registration process was terrifyingly simple, requiring only an email and a phone number. I deposited $100 with my credit card, deciding to just dip my toes in. I opened an online blackjack table. The first hand I won. The second I won again. Virtual chips piled up in front of me, celebratory animations flashed on the screen, and pleasant sound effects stimulated my nerves. In less than half an hour, my account balance went from $100 to $800. An unprecedented sense of control and exhilaration washed over me. This was so much more thrilling, so much easier, than playing with my friends. I felt like a genius, a buried gambling god. I even made a small withdrawal of $200 to my bank account. A few minutes later, a text message confirmed its arrival. This erased my last shred of doubt. It was real. However, this was just the house's carefully designed honey trap. Starting the next day, the tide turned. I started losing, small at first, then big. When I lost the money I'd won the day before, I couldn't accept it. I doubled my bets, trying to win it all back in one go. But the result was just bigger losses. My emotions were completely dictated by the numbers on the screen, swinging wildly from euphoria to rage. I started playing slots, chasing those ethereal jackpots. I was no longer playing to win back $2,000. I was trapped in a never-ending war against a machine. Just 2 weeks later, I had emptied my entire savings, about $3,000. But that didn't stop me. I was shackled by the sunk cost fallacy, feeling that since I had already invested so much, I couldn't give up halfway. I started searching online for online loans. Platforms promising instant approval and no collateral opened their doors to me. I submitted an application, and a few hours later, a $15,000 loan was deposited into my account. Clutching this lifeline, I charged back into the Golden Dragon Palace. I told myself I would be cautious this time, strategic. But the moment my first bet lost, all reason evaporated. For the next 48 hours, I barely slept, my eyes glued to the screen until the balance hit zero again. 2 weeks. $18,000. I had not only lost all my savings but was now saddled with a debt that would take me months of working without spending a dime to repay. I collapsed into my chair. The room was deathly quiet, save for the whirring of my computer's fan, which seemed to be mocking my stupidity. The devil in the mirror had broken free. For the next full year, I lived a fractured life. By day, I was John, the IT tech support guy at a mid-sized company in Ohio. I handled my colleagues' computer issues, rebooted servers, installed software, and earned a respectable, if not spectacular, salary. I joked with everyone in the break room, complained about work, and planned for the weekend. No one knew that the seemingly normal me had a giant black hole devouring his soul. The moment I clocked out, or during my lunch break, or even in a bathroom stall, I became someone else, a frantic gambler. I was no longer satisfied with just the Golden Dragon Palace. I had 7 or 8 different gambling apps on my phone. The second my monthly salary hit my account, the first thing I did was pay the minimum on my loans. Then, I would deposit every remaining cent into various platforms. I imagined I could use the new user bonuses to gain an edge, but every time, the result was the same. I lost it all. My quality of life plummeted. I used to go out for dinner and movies with friends. Now I turned down all social invitations because my pockets were emptier than my fridge, which often contained nothing but expired milk and a bottle of ketchup. I started making up excuses to borrow money from colleagues. Today my car needed repairs. Tomorrow there was a family emergency. At first, they were willing to help, but after a while, the way they looked at me began to change. I owed one colleague, Mike, $3,000, and it became my biggest source of stress. His initial no rush turned into him casually, mentioning it every day by my desk or in the hallway. His gaze was like a small hammer, constantly tapping on my frayed nerves. And through all of this, the love of my life, Sarah, knew nothing. Sarah was my light. 2 years my junior, she was a vibrant and ambitious graphic designer. We had been together for over 2 years and had a wonderful relationship. But shortly before I started gambling online, she was transferred for a job opportunity to Cleveland, a city about 200 miles away. We became a long-distance couple. Looking back now, it was that distance that became an umbrella for my sins. We would FaceTime every night. On the screen, she was always radiant, sharing funny stories from her job, her clients' strange requests, or a new restaurant she had discovered. I, in turn, worked hard to play the role of a boyfriend worried about his business. I started complaining to her about work stress and a bad economy, laying the groundwork for my future lies. "You look so tired, John. You have dark circles down to your chin," she would say with concern. "It's nothing, babe. Just working on a big project lately. It's a bit draining." I'd lie, when in reality I had just been up gambling until 4 a.m. again. Once or twice a month, she would take a bus for several hours to come see me. Those were my happiest and most agonizing moments. She would act like a little wife, throwing my mountain of dirty laundry into the washer, filling my empty fridge with food, and then holding me, burying her head in my chest and saying, "You work too hard. You need to take care of yourself." Every time she did this, my heart would be gnawed by immense guilt. I held her, smelling the shampoo in her hair, feeling her unconditional love and trust, and I felt like the most despicable, filthy liar in the world. Several times, I was on the verge of confessing everything, of getting on my knees and begging for her forgiveness. But the words would get caught in my throat, swallowed by fear. I was afraid she would despise me, afraid she would leave me, and even more afraid of losing the one source of warmth that made me feel like I was still a person. So, I chose to continue the charade. I watched her bustle around for me, worry about me, while I didn't even have enough money in my pocket to treat her to a decent dinner. Our so-called dates were mostly spent in my messy apartment, eating meals made from the groceries she had bought. She never complained, assuming I was being frugal and working hard for our future. One time, her sister Jessica, a sharp lawyer and a keen judge of character, came with her for a visit. We were at a restaurant when she casually asked about my big project. "John, Sarah tells me you're busy with a big project. What's it about? Can you share?" My heart instantly started racing, my palms sweating. I mumbled a vague, stuttering lie about software development. Jessica didn't press further, but her scrutinizing, slightly suspicious gaze had me on pins and needles. After seeing them off at the station that night, Sarah said on the phone, "That's just my sister, she's like an interrogator. Don't mind her." I laughed and said, "Of course not." But inside, alarm bells were ringing. I knew my double life could be exposed at any moment. What I didn't know was that a much deeper abyss was waiting for me. By March 2023, my life had reached a dead end. My credit cards were all maxed out, collection calls and emails for my online loans began to bombard my life, and my colleague Mike had given me an ultimatum. If I didn't pay back the $3,000 by the end of the month, he was going to tell my boss. I was like a caged animal, frantic and cornered. I had already lost that month's salary, with less than $100 left in my account. I stared at Sarah's picture on my phone screen, her smile so sweet. A thought I had suppressed for a long time, one that even I found utterly evil, finally broke through. I called her, took a deep breath, and said in a tired, suppressed tone I had rehearsed countless times, "Hey, babe." "John, are you okay? You sound awful." Her voice was filled with concern. I've run into some trouble. I began the most shameless performance of my life. "Remember that project I told you about? One of our key suppliers suddenly bailed, and now we need a sum of money to urgently find an alternative. Otherwise the whole project will fail, and all the initial investment will go down the drain." "Oh my God, how much do you need?" "Not a lot, maybe about $2,000 would be enough. I've put all my money into it, and my salary hasn't come in yet. It's just terrible timing." I deliberately named a smaller amount to make it sound more believable. There was a moment of silence on her end. I could picture her brow furrowed in thought. Then she said, "Don't worry. I'll figure out the money. Send me your Venmo." No suspicion, no interrogation. Just complete trust. At that moment, I felt like someone had carved out my heart with a white-hot knife. I was overcome with shame, but at the same time, a sick sense of relief washed over me. A few minutes later, my phone vibrated. A Venmo notification. "Sarah sent you $2,000. I immediately sent the money to Mike, resolving that urgent crisis. But I didn't stop. The ease with which I got that $2,000 was like a key that unlocked Pandora's box in my heart. I realized that Sarah's love and trust became my last and largest line of credit. I began to escalate things. The first success led me to weave a much larger web of lies. I told her my business was growing and required constant cash flow. "Babe, we landed a huge order. But we need to front the money for materials, about $15,000. Once this is done, we'll make a huge profit. We can go to Hawaii then." I tempted her with a fictitious future. Sarah didn't have that much in savings. So, with my encouragement and analysis, she applied for her first online loan in her own name. She knew nothing about these things. I guided her step by step, showing her how to fill out the information, like a devil guiding an angel into hell. The moment the money arrived, I pounced on the online casinos like a madman who hadn't eaten in 3 days. I fantasized that this time I would win big, cover all my losses, and then quit for good, using the winnings to fulfill my promises to Sarah. The result was predictable. $15,000 lasted less than a week at the slot machines and Baccarat tables. After losing it all, an immense panic seized me. Not only had I failed to win back my money, but I had also dragged Sarah down with me. But the gambler's psyche is so twisted. The more you lose, the more you want to win it back. The bigger the hole, the more you want to fill it with an even bigger win. My lies spiraled out of control. I invented all sorts of crises for my virtual company. Our servers were hacked. We need a lot of money for repairs and to compensate clients. A partner ran off with the funds. I have to fill the gap, or the company will go bankrupt, and I might even go to jail. Each time, I portrayed myself as incredibly miserable, exploiting her love for me and her desire not to see me fail, pushing her to borrow more money. Our calls were no longer sweet sharings of our daily lives, but my one-sided financial crisis reports. She started crying on the phone, saying she was scared, that she couldn't take it anymore. "John, I can't borrow any more money. Several of my credit cards are maxed out. Babe, just hold on a little longer. Trust me, this is the last time. As soon as we get through this, everything will be okay," I'd say, numbing her and myself with empty promises. To get her to take out those terrifyingly high-interest payday loans, I even staged a meticulously planned drama. "I'm really at the end of my rope, Sarah," I said in a desperate tone. I might have to go to the loan sharks. I know it's dangerous, but I have no other choice." This completely shattered her defenses. She was terrified I would actually go down that path. So crying, she agreed to try one more time. From March to July, in just 4 short months, I, like a vampire, drained over $400,000 from Sarah. She emptied her meager savings and took on debt from over a dozen different online loan platforms. I had single-handedly dragged her life into a quagmire. Every time I received money from her, it felt like torture. Guilt, self-loathing, and heartache warred with the sick excitement of getting more gambling funds. I hated myself, yet I couldn't stop. I told myself it was all for us, for the miracle that would win everything back. But the miracle never came. Every dollar, soaked with her tears and hope, turned into a cold string of data on a casino server and then vanished. I had become a complete monster, a parasite feeding my addiction with my girlfriend's love and sacrifice. In July, it all came to an end. When Sarah called, she was crying too hard to form complete sentences. The loans in her name had started to default on a massive scale. Collection agencies were blowing up her phone, even calling her at work. She was facing not just financial ruin, but the risk of losing her job. "John, please, can you help me pay back just a little? Even a few $100s. I'm going crazy," she sobbed. What could I say? My account balance was $78.52. All my money, along with her $400,000, had been completely devoured by the house. I could only continue to fob her off with feeble lies. "Babe, don't be scared. I'm working on it. The funds will come through soon." But this time, she didn't believe me anymore. After a fit of desperate crying, the line went dead. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. For the next few days, my texts to her went unanswered. Her phone was unreachable. A sense of foreboding enveloped me. I felt like a death row inmate awaiting sentencing. Then my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number, but I knew who it was. Her sister, Jessica. I answered, trembling. "John." Jessica's voice was as cold as a scalpel, devoid of any emotion. "I'm not going to waste time. My sister told me everything. From March 15th to July 22nd, under the guise of business investments, you defrauded her of a total of $400,700. We have every bank transfer, Venmo record, and screenshots of your chats." My mind went blank. My blood felt like it had turned to ice. "Because of you, Sarah is now facing massive debt and is on the verge of a mental breakdown. You have ruined her life." She paused, her voice laced with suppressed rage. "I'm giving you two options. First, you return the full amount within 1 week. Second, if you can't, we will immediately go to the police and press charges for fraud. $400,000 is enough to put you in prison for many years. You're 29. Think long and hard about where you want to spend the rest of your life." She hung up. I collapsed to the floor, the phone slipping from my hand. It was all over. That night, with my last $70, I logged back into the Golden Dragon Palace. I bet it all on a single hand of blackjack, my final, pathetic struggle. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, praying to a non-existent god, to the devil, to any deity that might exist. On the screen, my hand was a 20. The dealer's up card was a 6. "I've got this," I thought. Then, the dealer drew card after card. A 7 and 8. And the last card, a freakish ace. 21, the dealer wins. My account balance turned to 0. A prompt appeared on the screen. Insufficient balance. Please deposit. I stared at the words, and then I started laughing hysterically. As I laughed, the tears began to flow. As I write this, I am sitting in an apartment I am about to be evicted from. The eviction notice is taped to the door. My phone has been shut off for non-payment, cutting me off from the outside world. I don't know how Sarah is doing. I dare not think about it. I destroyed her, the only woman in the world who ever truly loved me. That knowledge is more painful than the $400,000 debt and the impending prison sentence. I am writing my story down not to fish for sympathy. My crimes don't deserve any forgiveness. I just want to present it as a raw, bloody case study for those who, like me, were or are struggling in the abyss of online gambling. I want to tell you that I was once just like you. I thought I was special, that I could control it, that I could beat the house with strategy and luck. But we were all wrong. Online gambling is not a fair game. It is a trap meticulously designed by psychologists, mathematicians, and programmers. It has only one purpose: to drain every last cent from your pocket and every last shred of hope from your soul. Every small amount you win is just bait, cast out to make you lose even more. The flashing lights, the enticing sound effects, the seemingly attainable jackpots, they are all designed to numb your reason and trigger your most primitive greed. You think you're battling luck, but you're actually fighting a precisely calibrated machine that never makes a mistake. You don't stand a chance. Don't believe the bullshit about winning it back. It's just an excuse to sink deeper. Every time you think it's the last time, it will only be the beginning of the next, bigger failure. If you are losing, please stop now. No matter how much you've lost, stopping now is when your losses are at their smallest. Go to your family, confess, and seek help. The process will be painful, but it is far better than falling into an endless abyss. If you are winning, please also stop now. Withdraw your winnings and then delete those apps forever. Because what you win today, you will pay back double tomorrow. The house always has more patience than you do. My life is ruined. I have lost my love, my dignity, and my future. I bought this bloody lesson for the price of $400,000. I hope my story can help any one of you avoid repeating my mistakes. Walk away, my friend, before your world completely collapses. Because in this game, the only winner, always, is the house.